Well, traveling just about anywhere by plane, train, or automobile is so 2019. Many of us may still be going to see our families or just heading out into the open road for some fresh air this holiday season. So how can we include our canine companions in the fun? Let's bark about it. Welcome back to Alpha Paw, your destination for everything dog. I'm Bernie Zilio, and I'm on a mission to answer every doggone question you have ever had about your fur babies. And today we are talking about how we can best travel with our pups. Fortunately, we have with us today an expert vet, Dr. Ross Bernstein. Dr. Ross is a seasoned veterinary professional and pet care expert. He earned his doctorate degree in veterinary medicine at UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine, and his work has been featured in several industry-leading publications, including the Journal of Veterinary Surgery. He's our go-to vet for everything we want and need to know about our fur babies. So welcome back to Alpha Paw, Dr. Ross.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Now, with the holiday season quickly approaching, I know many of us are going to be taking road trips with our dogs. Now, we've been over some safety measures for how to properly care for our dogs while in the car before, but I kind of want to go over it again with you if you don't mind. Now, tell me everything. Do dogs need to be restrained? Do they have to be in a carrier? Does it all depend on size? What do we need to know about car safety for our dogs?
If you're like myself or a pet owner, we love to travel with our pets, but it can be dangerous and scary things can happen if they're running around free in the back seat or not secured in a carrier crate or with a seatbelt.
So what you're saying is, I guess, depending on the size of the dog. So I know you and I both have big dogs. So those dogs would be restrained with a seatbelt. And if you have a smaller dog, you're saying a carrier or a crate. Now, do we have to restrain the carrier or crate?
It's best not to have them running around free so that they aren't gonna, if there is a crash, they don't go flying across the car. If the windows are down, that they don't jump out. It's an extra measure of safety. Just like if you or I are sitting there, we have our seatbelt on. So if there is a crash, we have some extra measure of security.
Okay, sounds good. Now, the next question. So let's say I have a big dog. I have my seatbelt. Can Podrick ride shotgun with me?
I didn't know his full name was Podrick. I thought it was his pod.
You thought I just named my dog POD? Like, what does that even mean?
I don't know.
Well,
it's
from Game of Thrones. So Sir Podrick is his official name.
Okay,
yes,
cool.
Thank you.
It's better if they're in the back seat. They can ride shotgun, but like at the same time, it is safer. You don't want to be distracted by them while you're driving. Shouldn't have them in your lap. So it's probably, you can get a more secure seatbelt for one of the back seats. But again, it probably depends on your dog, on the type of car you have, and everyone's going to know their dog better. I can't make one generalization to cover every single dog and every single breed. One big risk of them riding in the front seat is if there is a crash or you stop suddenly or somehow the airbag gets deployed, that can be very dangerous for your dog. And their body is not like ours. It's not, their head and chest is not going to be in the same orientation as ours. So that could result in a bad injury as well.
So what you're saying is no, do not put Podrick in the front seat. Put him in the back seat with his seatbelt. Got that. Now, something else that Podrick loves to do in the car, and I think dogs in general just adore doing this, is sticking their head out the window and just literally, it does not matter how fast I'm going. His head is out the window and everything is just flying in his face. But unfortunately, I have a feeling that that's not great for dogs. So can you kind of elaborate on why we shouldn't maybe be doing that?
I would say probably the biggest reason why we see dogs coming into the hospital due to car-related incidents is if they actually jump out the window while the car is moving. So, I mean, yeah, they could stick their head out, but there shouldn't really be any possibility that their whole body can get out. Sometimes they just jump out because who knows why, they're dogs.
Because we just got to the PARK and someone couldn't wait till we parked the car. So he jumped out. Yes, it's a real story.
Exactly. And sometimes we stop and there's a dog in the car next to us and they want to jump out. Or you stop and your dog's super cute and the car next to you is calling your dog. So your dog is going to jump out then. They don't really know. So if they jump out the car, they can break their bones, get nasty road rash. And it's just better if they don't have even that opportunity.
Okay, sounds good. So, and I think if your dog is wearing a seatbelt, that's even more protection from them jumping out the window. So, kind of keeping the window at a medium. I only let my dog stick his snoot out the window, and anything more he's not allowed to do anymore. He has lost his privileges. Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to add, and what I actually did surgery on a dog a couple of months ago, that they're being carried in the bed of the pickup truck, which I think seems more straightforward for a lot of people, that they even have more risk of jumping out when the car is moving. But again, and this probably happens more in not as well populated areas, but that's very dangerous. If you're driving really fast or you hit a bump, or if your dog sees something, they're going to jump out, and then they run the risk again, like getting hit by another car, breaking bones when they land, and nasty road rash. So again, all the same stuff applies, except it's probably even more dangerous than just having a window open.
Absolutely. And this actually just made me think of something. When I restrained Pod, and I read this online, so you can corroborate if it's true or not. I read to not restrain him from like the collar, but rather if he has the harness or somewhere from the back, in case I do stop short, I'm not choking him, or he doesn't have the potential of like breaking his neck if I do have, God forbid, like an accident.
I think, yeah, the best type of seatbelt or restraint is something that spreads the surface area of the force over a larger portion of their body, and something around their chest, like a body harness rather than a neck that could choke them or cause some sort of neck injury.
Now, moving on, because I know not everyone has the luxury of having, their families close by or the ability to take road trips. So for me, for example, my family lives across the country, and unfortunately driving there any time of the year isn't really an option. So let's talk about flying with our dogs. What are some of the things that owners, dog owners should be aware of when flying with their dogs?
Number one, you want to make sure that your pet is going to be up to date on vaccinations and any preventatives for going to the area that you are. Different states have different requirements in terms of what vaccines are core vaccines sometimes, as well as preventative. So in certain areas, different diseases like heartworm disease, for example, is going to be much more prevalent in the Midwest, in the South. So if you are going to those places, you want to make sure that they're on heartworm preventative. Some vaccines like leptospirosis, you want to make sure that they're covered for that if you're going to a place that may have more wildlife, for example. So another thing you want to do before traveling is have your pet checked out by your veterinarian beforehand to make sure they don't have any underlying health conditions that might not be safe for them flying. If you are flying with them, don't put them in the overhead compartment. There was a story a couple of years ago about a French bulldog that was kept in the overhead compartment. Don't know for sure the reason why it died. It could have suffocated, it could have overheated. But if the dog is in the cabin with you, then you can monitor it and know what's going on with their health. Talk to your vet about sedation before flying. And then always go on the same flight as your dog. There have been horror stories where people have sent their dog on a different flight than themselves, and somehow they get lost, and don't want that to happen. One last thing about flying with your dogs: if they are flying as an emotional support animal, you want to make sure you have gone to your vet and gone to your own physician and have all your forms ready for that specific airline. Now, each one is going to be different. And so you want to make sure you have all your forms ready ahead of time, and that you get to the airport early, a couple hours extra, just in case. So if there is something going on, you don't miss your flight.
This all makes me so emotional in so many different ways. I have flown with my dog, and I cannot fathom putting my dog on a different flight. Cannot fathom letting anyone, I mean, he's too big, but putting a dog in the overhead compartment. And I want your expert opinion, because as a pet owner, there's no way you're putting my dog with the cargo. Like, there's no way. I would go in the cargo before I let my dog go in the cargo, but that's me being hyper, aware of the situation. But I don't know if there's actually a need to have fear about it. So can you kind of clarify that for me and everybody else?
Yeah, there are many dogs that are okay to fly under the plane. I know people that fly with their dogs under the plane all the time, but so I know a lot of people get anxious about it, and yeah, it should be okay as long as you're going with a reputable airline and that they do have a protocol in place for flying with a dog under the plane. And if you think your dog is going to be one that's going to need sedation, talk to your vet about sedation before flying. Now, it doesn't always mean sedation. It can be a medication for anxiety. And they are sometimes very similar, but they can also be different as well.
I think I would need the sedation before pod because, again, he's not going in the cargo, even though you just fully explained it to me. I do think it's better to be more cautious when flying with your dog. I've done it a bunch, and it is nerve-wracking, but when done properly and your vet is involved and you've done all your research, it should be a fairly seamless process. Now, if this were any other year or any other lifetime, we would be talking about cruise ships and how to properly travel with your dog via water. But that's really not a thing for the foreseeable future. So we will be in touch in case that ever becomes something that we do again. Do you have more questions for Dr. Ross about traveling with your dog? Leave them in the comments section below. Again, I'm Bernie Zilio, and this is Alpha Paw. Be sure you subscribe so you don't miss one single doggone episode. We'll see you next time.